There's no two ways to look at that. You're either going to choose to continue to victimize yourself, or you're going to choose a self-empowerment that changes everything.
Hi, and welcome to Lead Well. Hi, and welcome. And my guest today is someone who doesn't just talk about change, she helps people recode their inner architecture. So transformation actually sticks because it's so hard to change, isn't it? Wendy Paquette is a reality architect, a master of energetic congruence, and a guide for leaders ready to align with who they truly are, beyond conditioning, beyond outdated patterns, and beyond the mind. And I'm pretty sure it's not only leaders, but it's everyone who wants to be who they are. So your work, Wendy, isn't just traditional coaching. You work at a level of frequency, dissolving inner resistance and helping high performers shift timelines so their deepest knowing translates into tangible results. Today, we'll explore what it means to lead from clarity, not control, and to move beyond mindset into something much more powerful, and why many leaders aren't stuck, they just tuned into the wrong timeline. This conversation is for anyone craving success that feels soul aligned, embodied, and real. Wow, Wendy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Christine.
Sure. So, my first question to you, Wendy, is you call yourself a reality architect. What does that mean in everyday language? And how does it apply to leadership and to everyday life?
Yeah, if you're going to claim creatorship in your reality, you get to architect exactly what you'd like to experience. It'd be like building a house, right? You're going to architect what the house looks like based on your preferences, not based on what you don't want. So reality architecture is simply that. It's addressing where you are, where you want to go, and what you'd like to create, and then addressing the gap in between where the frequencies might not be in alignment and shifting
Hmm.
it to be so.
Okay. Okay. So it's like building a blueprint of the life that I want to live.
Well, living it. So you're building it and then actualizing it so that you can
Mm,
experience it, right? There's more steps than just visioning or visualizing or trying to manifest.
mm.
It's actualizing what you'd like and you're architecting it as you go.
Okay. So architecting is also like building it as you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I
That's
mean,
interesting
for
because
me,
for me, an architect is the person who draws the plans, and then there is the builders who actually build the building. That's why I was a
yeah.
little confused.
Well, if you can imagine, if I'm architecting reality with you, I'm
Mm.
not building your life, you are, but I'm
Ah,
supporting you to understand the parameters in which you'd like to create your reality,
okay.
and you are building it. So, yes, you are correct. The
Ah,
architect in me is supporting you to see what you have, where you'd like to go, and what the reality looks like for you and the timelines in order to create it. You're ultimately in charge, so you're
mm.
building. Yes.
Okay, so your clients are building it. So you talk a lot about the timeline, and you say that people might be stuck in the wrong timeline. So what does this actually look like in practice when you help someone shift their timeline? And what effect does it have?
Yeah, I wouldn't say they'd be stuck primarily so. They'd be just operating in a timeline that's outdated based on where they'd like to go. So the first step is really truly allowing yourself to acknowledge that where you'd like to be, maybe you have already surpassed your prior goals and you're still operating from that old system, that old timeline in
Mm.
this current reality, and then you can't figure out why things aren't changing because you're still operating from that timeline.
Okay, so you're still in your old timeline, or are there two timelines that people can choose from?
The big scheme of things is timelines are ever changing. Every time you make a decision, you're shifting timeline. So there's not just one static timeline.
Hmm.
There's a target. So every day you're making choices to walk into and experience that target that you're after, that vision. So there's not two or different timelines. There's multiple timelines and they are infinite. What you
Okay.
get to know is that you're the creator of your own experience, in which you get to choose the timeline that you would like to experience based on who you are, how you show up, your emotional intelligence, and how you allow yourself to walk into and achieve and experience that which you're after.
Hmm.
So, is there one or two timelines? No, there's infinite timelines. But
Timeline.
addressing where you're at is the first step.
Okay, so what are then the signs that someone is operating from an old pattern or from an old timeline, as you call it?
Yeah, well, your emotional state and your emotional responses are your indicators to out of aligned programming.
Hmm.
So if you're running on old programming, how you know is that you're feeling a lag in your reality. You're feeling resistance to where you're trying to go or what you're trying to experience, and it's just not occurring. So there could be an irritation, a frustration, maybe even a little bit of anger in there that you're just not achieving or getting to where you want to be. That's the first place I would look.
So it's just not feeling in the right place at the right time, or
I suppose you could see it that way. I mean, generally, it's as you're attempting to achieve something or
Mhm.
experience something, and you're not. And so that experience is bringing up emotional responses. The lower frequency emotional responses are indicators of out of aligned programming.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
And I think that when it is aligned, you call that energetic congruence. Is that correct? How would
It's,
you?
yeah, it's congruent. You're looking at heart mind harmonics
Mm-hmm.
that are congruent to where you're headed. So you know when you're happy and joyful and you're I guess you would label it as succeeding in your reality or achieving what you're after or experiencing what you want. That feeling of peace, of bliss, of harmony, of elation, anything that feels a higher frequency indicates alignment. So you're either in alignment to what you want or out of alignment to what you
Mm.
want.
How do I get there if I feel out of alignment?
Yeah, well, the first thing is owning knowing that. Okay, I feel out of alignment.
Mm.
Because what happens in your body, instead of thinking, why isn't this happening to me? And you're pulling the emotion inward and holding it there and trying to figure it out from there, it's
Mm.
very difficult to address where you are and where you want to go in the same frequency. Because oftentimes, where you want to go is a higher frequency than where you are,
Mm.
especially when you're feeling a lower frequency emotion. So,
What would a lower frequency emotion be?
anger, irritation, frustration, like
Okay.
those kind of lower frequency emotions that aren't feeling good, anything that
Mm.
doesn't feel good, like
Mm.
from neutral lower. Pulling yourself away from that scenario and stepping sort of back outside of it and going, okay, that I'm experiencing an out of aligned program
Mm.
or a lower frequency emotional response to some place, something, some person, some situation. I realize that that is an indicator. My lower frequency emotions are indicators of out of line programming. Note to self, right? It's not me, it's the programming that's running that's causing me to experience it. So you automatically take yourself out of victimhood into the empowered state by
Mm.
acknowledging that first position.
But am I not giving away my responsibility as well when I'm doing that?
How are you responsibility in ownership of creating your reality? Who are
Yeah.
you handing it to?
Well, if I'm saying that it's because of the frequency and because of programming, am I not?
Your programming.
Oh, okay.
What you're doing is you're stepping outside of yourself, looking at you and your programming and your emotional response and saying, okay,
Okay.
I get it. This programming is running within me that's causing these emotional responses.
Hmm.
I'm in ownership of acknowledging that piece of it. Now, what the next step is, what is it that I'm experiencing? What is the programming?
Hmm.
And identifying the programming. So that next step leads into, okay, let's look at what caused this emotional response. And then when we hold it in the space of, okay, this caused it, whether it's a person, place, thing, scenario, situation, what is it being? What is that scenario or person, place, or thing? What is it being to me that I'm responding with a lower frequency emotional response. When you can identify that piece of it, you've then identified the programming that runs within you.
Okay.
So it's about there's a small subset of programming that you get to identify where you are, that you're in ownership of it, what it is, and how, there's a pathway through that. That is the catalyst to change. Because when you know that it's not you, you weren't born this way, you're not stuck with this, you're not victimizing yourself with your situation where maybe your culture, your religion, your education, where you were born, your family, then you're in ownership of your reality in a way that is controllable to you because it's your reality and you are the creator of it,
Hmm.
right?
And is it like you then help people reconnect with who they really are or who they
Yeah.
already are, or how are you,
Who
what's
they are and who they've always been, which is source energy, right? The infinite intelligence expressing itself through the skin suit
hmm.
as you, the personality, and then the identities which you have as programming. So it's like, okay, the first thing is realizing, okay, I am the creator. I have this power, this innate power. We're all born with it, right? Our perception of our reality will indicate where our programming lives within us and what it is. And then we're able to walk through a process of shifting that. So we actualize what we really want because what's in between where we are and where we want to be is the programming.
Hmm.
It's not the things that we point at outside of us. It's not our circumstances because we created our circumstances. We chose our circumstances. We're choosing consistently our circumstances, even if they don't appear to support us. If we're turning the finger on ourselves and saying, well, it's because I was born into this family that I don't have XYZ. If you keep choosing that, you keep choosing that until
Hmm.
you take yourself out of that position and choose something different,
Which would,
right?
if it's a family, what?
Whatever you want. I mean, if it's you could move, right? There's a million things. It depends on the circumstance itself,
Mhm.
but you're in an ownership of it. You want to stay in the circumstance and keep causing a victimized reality. That is a choice you're making. There's no two ways to look at that. You're either going to choose to continue to victimize yourself, or you're going to choose a self-empowerment that changes everything. So your reality is completely in your control.
And where is this different from other approaches that are like NLP or any other spiritual approach? What makes your approach really unique?
Yeah, I don't know any of the techniques of NLP or
Mm.
a lot of the other processes. I've been doing my own work
Mm.
for over 11 years, so it's a long
Okay.
time. What I would say causes it to stand out is a litmus test of proof, not just maybe self-talk or something other than that. It's a litmus test of proof. Here's how we know you went from this to that. There's proof in the pudding.
Mm.
So what makes it different? I don't know of anything else that actually has that embedded into the process.
Do you
Because,
have any particular examples for us where what has changed for your clients or maybe your own life?
oh my gosh, everything. I'm a living, walking example of my own reality on a regular basis. So it's never ending and it only gets better from here. Especially when you know who you are and that you're creating your reality. When anything is truly possible and you know it, then it comes down to being able to like manage the thought processes in your mind because you can think about anything and all of a sudden it starts to show up. And then you're
Mm.
like, okay, hold on. I thought about that a little bit too long. Right? Because it's not really what I want. What I want is over here. Oops, right? I just totally put my time, energy, and effort into thinking about it and it starts to
Mm.
arrive
Mm.
only because the programming is out of the way. Nothing's in there that says, oh, no, you can't have that. You're not worthy. You're not deserving, right? You're not capable, or you're not in the right scenario, or you don't have XYZ. None of that exists when you start clearing out your own programming.
Mm.
So I've created many, many things in my reality. My most proud of moments would not necessarily be with myself, but with my clients.
Mhm.
Because their results are my results. I look at in that perspective because they're choosing to do the work themselves and we walk through it for them to realize. that they no longer feel a lower frequency emotional response to circumstances that they might have once thought they were born with and were stuck with.
Mm.
And the level of peace that resides and the mental clarity that comes from that experience can't be bought in a way that when you do the work in this way it creates for you. Because then you know the difference between believing something and knowing something. When you believe something, you don't know it. You're putting your hope and wish and trust in something that you're not certain of, which leaves room for doubt. But when you create something, you only need to do it one time to know that it is possible and true for you
Hmm.
in order to keep recreating that and up-leveling yourself in that way. So I adore the clients that have come through my space that have completely different realities based on their own choosing. They just walked through the pathway themselves to know how empowered they truly are. And that's a lifelong thing. That's something you could teach your children, your grandchildren, which inevitably would change the way we experience our reality as a whole, as a
Mm.
collective.
Is that what you call leading from frequency?
Yeah, 100%. When you're being it, what you're doing is giving others permission to also be it, right?
Okay, so for someone who listens and feels stuck or unclear or out of sync, what is one simple first step that they can take to start shifting?
To allow themselves to realize that programming is what's holding them back. So they're feeling stuck, or they're feeling resistance, or they're feeling the lag. I'm not where I should be, or at least I know myself to be there, but I'm not getting there. It's not fast enough. To recognize that programming is it's subconscious in nature because it runs unconsciously, just keeps running, whether you know about it or not. And it shows up in your reality as an experience,
Okay, so
right?
what
So we're
you
not
call
stuck within.
programming is probably what I would call unhelpful beliefs.
Yeah. Anything that you're believing. So
Mm,
that's where I stand on the soapbox of believing versus knowing. If
mm,
you believe something about yourself that's not true, your reality must prove it true to you. And you'll see it everywhere you look.
mm,
Listen, when a program is running for you and you are committed to believing something about yourself that's unhelpful, two things will show up. One is you'll see your belief about yourself everywhere you look. So let's just use the example of judgment. If you're like, I'm like, people have said maybe I'm judgmental, and I don't think that I am that. And as source energy in a skin suit, we are not that, but we may have bought the programming that we are simply because someone might have said it to us or we've seen it and we just totally are highly aware of it. We might buy the program. Two things happen. We're going to see judgment everywhere we look. Not only will we see it, we will be irritated by it, sometimes angered by it. They're judging me, they're judging someone else. I don't like when they're judging other people. You'll feel a lower frequency emotional response to it,
mm,
which is what? An indicator of a out of line program. The second thing that will happen is in order to prove to people that you are not judgmental, you will tell them first, I'm not trying to judge you, but I'm not being judgmental. However, don't think I'm judging you, but this is how I feel. You will consistently tell people that you're not that to
mm,
ensure that people don't look at you in that way. Yet you'll see it in the world and be irritated and frustrated by it. Those are the two things that are huge indicators of programs that are running consistently in the reality in your mind, right? In your subconscious programming, which will get in the way of a lot of things because your time, energy, and effort spent on A, being irritated and frustration by other people being that, or B, by ensuring that you tell people that you're not that first. All that time and energy and effort, even thinking about it, just reinforces that loop. So, in order to have something different, that loop, that program gets to be acknowledged, first of all, and then shifted, not just shifted in thinking, but actually shifted through a portal of self where you acknowledge that that is something you held separate from yourself, maybe as long as you've had it, and embody it as a part of you in a different way.
Mm.
so that it no longer is separate from you and is outside of you, but is a part of you that you understand,
Okay.
which
And
will
this is
shift
also,
programming.
sorry, is this also when you say mental fitness goes beyond the mind? What do you mean by that?
Mental fitness goes beyond the mind in that you're consistently accurate in the things that you're thinking. So if you're thinking that someone else is being something, you get to address the fact that you're identifying it for a reason.
Mm.
It's active, right? It's shifting programs and shifting timelines isn't something that's passive. There is an active piece of that's at play. And doing the work for yourself or with someone else, once you learn the tools, is the most important piece of it until it becomes you.
Okay. And how did you get the tools? Where did you get them from?
Yeah, well, I didn't learn them from anyone else. I had my own awakening, which gifted me the ability to see and read frequency, particularly with out of aligned frequencies, knowing these processes, like I would say instantly. So I had an experience myself, which was, I guess you could call it an awakening, an enlightenment experience, something where I took myself to the edge of frustration and irritation and made a powerful request of myself in order to know what my gifts were. And unbeknownst to me, they arrived.
Okay.
Which there's a whole story about it, but it was a massive instant awakening where it's like being handed the keys to the multiverse. Here you go. And you receive them and go, what the heck do I do with these? Like, wow, it was that type of beginning. And gradually over time, I was able to unravel and allow myself to assimilate what I knew. And that was how to identify your programming via your emotions. And it happened because I did it on myself first. It
Hmm.
was like it was the most beautiful accident where I was frustrated with something and irritated by something to the point of tears. And I was sitting in the bathtub and I started saying things and understanding things in a way that I had never experienced of myself before. And I ended up transmuting that programming into from frustration, irritation, and tears to neutral, completely nothing. And I, in that process of awakening for me, I was like, what just happened? I went from tears and frustration, irritation to like nothing. In fact, I feel a bit of joy, some peace
Mm.
here in an instant.
Mm.
There's a whole story about it, but it's too
Mm.
long to share in this moment. And that gifted me the ability to know. I reverse engineered. I'm like, what did I just do? And I did it again, and it worked again.
Mhm.
The next day, I was at a ladies' luncheon, and one of the organizers started asking me questions, and it was around support. And so I
Mm.
asked if I could try what I did on myself on her. It worked so well, she couldn't even remember the programming she was like leaning into to the point where she's like, Wendy, that was epiphany. That was an epiphany. And she got up and walked away. I was like, okay, look at that. It works on other people.
Okay.
Right. And so that started the journey, and that was 11 years ago.
Mm.
So from there, it only grew in knowing. My knowledge base, not by outside of me, but from within, began to grow in understanding humanity in
Mm.
nature, human beingness, and the programming that's running us.
Mm.
And from that space, it's been a shift everywhere I go,
Wow.
right? I do it on myself first. That is the knowing that I carry. And then everything sources through that space. And I get to share it with beautiful humans who are ready to take themselves on and actually address those things that they might actually learn that they have control over.
Wow, that sounds great. So, where can people find you?
The best place would be my website, which is wendypaquette.com. Currently have a live masterclass that is wendypaquette.com, and then it's /masterclass. You'll find the most current masterclass from wherever you come from. So when there's a live one, it'll show on there. And in that space, it's 2 hours of going through this exact process that I've been talking about, where I share all the tools in order to identify those programs and shift them while
Mm.
you're in there. I mean, these gifts weren't awakened within me for no reason. They were awakened to share. And so that's what I create. So there's multiple things we can do in my world, but that is probably the first step in. And as an invitation to get a taste of, how I speak and the work that I do, I have a secret podcast that resides on my website. If you go on there, I think it's at the top, it says podcast, but it's a secret podcast where it's not out for the public unless you jump in purposefully. And in there, you'll discover all the fun things that I talk about.
Wow, cool. Great. Thank you so much. And thanks for sharing with us here.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So thank you for all your great insights and the new frequency that you are bringing into this world.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you. This was Lead Well. Now, what is the one thing that you're taking away from this episode? Please share in the comments below and do share the podcast with your friends and family, but only if you like it.